Hi, it's Sherry. Welcome back to my channel, Canterbury Cottage. When my husband and I bought this house 8 years ago, I absolutely loved it. But over time, I began focusing on the negative, the few things that I didn't like about the house, instead of all of the things that I did. And so a week ago, I challenged myself to take on some projects that would help me to love my house again. And let me tell you, it really did work. I did all of these projects in just a few days. I can't wait to show you how they turned out. So let's get started. To get motivated to get some projects done around your house, do what the Clutterbug channel calls garbage bag therapy. Go around your house with a garbage bag and look for things you can throw away. I like to go around with 2 bags, using the second bag to put in items that I can donate. Getting rid of things you no longer need or want is so satisfying, and it really does motivate you to want to get other projects done around your house. Projects like creating a gallery wall. Ever since I took my bird pictures down in my dining room, I had been wanting to hang them in the stairwell. To begin, I took down the pictures that were already there. Then I removed the nails, filled the nail holes with spackling, and when the spackling was dry, I sanded it. Then I painted over the spackling with the leftover wall paint. I laid all of the bird pictures out on my living room floor, and then I selected one of the larger pictures to start the arrangement. I prefer using nails to command strips, but you should use whatever you prefer. Once the first picture is hung, I use a piece of scrap wood to measure and keep the distance above and below each of the pictures consistent. After I hang each picture, I make sure that it's straight using a level. If a picture is crooked, it can mess up the entire arrangement. I normally plan the arrangement on the floor before hanging the pictures, but due to the odd shape of the stairwell, this time I just made it up as I went along. For this arrangement, the key was finding pictures that looked nice next to one another and mixing in the smaller frames with the larger frames. Once all the pictures are hung, I go back and put a little dab of sticky tack in the bottom 2 corners of each picture to make sure that they all stay level. As you can see, painting the stairs is still on my to-do list. I'm mostly happy with how the wall turned out. I don't really like how it looks at the very top, but it will have to stay that way until I get a taller ladder. Refreshing your front door can go a long way in helping you to love your house again. Who doesn't love a house with a flag flying in the front yard, or with a pretty wreath on the front door? Since I was going to change out my wreath, I thought I might as well dust away the cobwebs. It was beginning to look a little like Halloween out there. I found another wreath in my basement and refreshed it by adding some blue flowers and a new ribbon. I removed the hello sign from my old wreath and stuck that in a planter on my front porch. I had been wanting to make some changes to my foyer for a while. I was tired of this particular piece of wall decor and wanted to replace it with a large mirror that I purchased at Goodwill for $35. At first, I had planned on painting the mirror, but then I decided to see how it would look if I just distressed it. I used my orbital sander and I sanded a bit by hand. This mirror is so heavy I was going to have to hang it from the studs. I used a stud finder to find and mark the studs, and then attached a screw to each of the 2 studs. I really like how the mirror bounces light around the foyer, but I didn't like that the reflection in the mirror was the back of the front door and the coat closet. So I hung a wreath over the mirror using a command hook. I wanted to reuse the wreath I had taken off of the front door, so I removed the bow, made a new bow for it, and then tied it to the salvaged pillar that I have leaning in my stairwell. As a final touch, I added a bird nest to the top to go with all of the new bird pictures. I added this corbel from my family room to the top of the cabinet in my foyer, and then I added some dried hydrangeas to a pitcher and just moved things around a bit to refresh the top of that cabinet. I didn't like the look of this wood sconce next to the gray mirror, so I replaced it with this gray chunky shelf instead. I'd be moving the wood sconce somewhere else. The gray shelf had been in this alcove, so I added a vase and flowers that had once been in my stairwell. Paint is a magic elixir. Paint some walls or a piece of furniture and see if you don't love your house just a little more. I decided to paint this old cabinet that I purchased from Hobby Lobby in the 1990s. It is actually the only piece of furniture in my front living room that I purchased new. Everything else was either thrifted or given to me. This is the same green paint that I used on a bookshelf in a previous video. I hadn't originally planned on distressing it, or I would have used chalk paint, but I thought it needed distressing to help the green sections blend in better with the natural wood trim that I had not painted. After sanding, I went over the entire piece with a coat of antiquing wax. I'm still trying to decide if I should paint the wood trim or not, but I love the green paint. It looks so much better than the goldy yellow paint that was on there before. Changing out your light switch plates is such an easy and inexpensive way to upgrade your home. This switch plate was so close to the mirror that I wanted it to disappear, and so I painted it with the wall paint. I even painted the screws. Now you don't notice how close it is to the mirror. I did the same thing with the outlet covers in my front living room. These covers were spray painted to match the cabinet hardware. Of course, you could just buy new covers. They are relatively inexpensive. I frequently like to update my guest bathroom because it doesn't cost much to change out a small rug and a couple hand towels. I wanted to emphasize the green of the large picture frame, so I removed my blue rug and towels and swapped them out for new green ones. I'll save the blue ones because I'll likely want to use them again sometime in the future. If you have more than one bathroom, you could move the towels from one bath to another to switch up the look. The fake roses that I purchased at the silos in Waco make me so happy. I think some beautiful flowers, whether they're real or fake, can really brighten up a room. Getting rid of things you don't like can be just as satisfying as adding things that you do like. I have always hated this cheap ceiling light in the basement stairwell. and now was the time to do something about it. I thought I could attach this pendant shade that I purchased for $4 at Goodwill. I cut a piece of PVC pipe 3/4 of an inch shorter than the screw sticking out from the light fixture. I put the shade over the screw, then the PVC pipe over the screw, and then I tightened the cap. Be sure to use PVC pipe that is narrower than your cap. Rotate the wires on the shade so that you can reinstall your light bulbs. This is how it looks from underneath. I think this is a huge improvement over the builder grade light that was here. If you've watched my channel before, you know I am a huge fan of using thrifted items as home decor. I found this plant stand at a local consignment store. I gave it a couple coats of matte black spray paint. I put candles in it instead of plants, and I think it looks really cute in front of the botanical prints that I made. I bought this extra large chandelier at the Habitat Restore for $10. I gutted it, and then I added driftwood and some fake succulents. As many of you know, I love gutting old outdoor lanterns and light fixtures and using them as indoor home decor. But this new piece might just be my all-time favorite. Is there a home project that you've been putting off for a long time? I've been putting off this project for almost 3 years. Traverfill is a powder that you mix with water to fill holes and cracks in your stone tile. You spread it around with a putty knife, let it dry for 15 minutes, then come back and wipe up the excess with a wet sponge. That's it. Why did I put this off for so long? I tried it on the porcelain tile in my bathroom, but it didn't work nearly as well. This crack is really bad, so I think I'll order something specifically made for ceramic and porcelain tile. It was also time for me to touch up the paint around the new thermostat that we got 9 months ago. My thrift stores always have a good selection of coffee tables. I purchased this one about 5 years ago for $10, but I'm ready for a change. I'll pass it on to my son, and in its place, I found this cut-down vintage pedestal table for only $25. I tightened the leg screws, cleaned it really well with orange oil, and then applied Old English dark wood scratch cover. It's pretty scratched up, so at some point I will probably restain it. But for now, I'm loving it in my front living room. I like it so much better than the old table. I really enjoy restyling a bookshelf, and it can really freshen up the look of a room. Empty the bookcase and gather together any new items that you might want to add to the shelves. Start with books. Make sure you have enough to at least put some on half of the shelves. Arrange them in a zigzag pattern and lay some horizontally to mix it up. Next, add artwork. Lean larger pictures against the back wall. Then start adding your accessories. Group really small items together. Notice how the blue candlesticks picks up on the blue in the souvenirs, and the green box plays off the green books. I think every bookcase needs a fake plant or flower to liven it up. Keep moving things around and play with the arrangement until you fall on something that you really like. Vary the height of things on each shelf. It's much more interesting to the eye.
This picture was too low, so I hung it on a nail hammered into the back of the bookcase. Notice how the colors of the items on the bookshelves blend well with their surroundings, most notably the fabric wall covering. Every shelf also includes a touch of something gold. I think every room should have something whimsical or unexpected. This is especially important in a room as formal as my front living room. I decided to merge this old wood table base with an old suitcase that I had. This ended up being super easy because the piece of wood attached to the legs fit perfectly inside the suitcase. I simply drilled holes through the wood and the suitcase and attached it to the legs using some new wood screws. To marry the two pieces, I painted the legs with 2 coats of black chalk paint. When it was dry, I lightly distressed it using 220 grit sandpaper. And then I went over the legs with a coat of antiquing wax. I like the sheen that an antiquing wax gives to black chalk paint. I think this is a fun end table and a great place to store my jigsaw puzzles. You may have noticed that many of today's projects involved my front formal living room, which is a room I don't show very often because it is my least favorite room. It has padded fabric wall covering, red, green, and blue plaid fabric to be exact. I thought it would help if I toned down the red some. So I traded out the red throw and some of the red pillows for blue and green. After trading out my coffee table, I also rearranged my tray of vintage game pieces and added some much-needed greenery. I also removed some accessories I was tired of and replaced them with thrifted brass, which I'm loving right now. I'm really pleased with how a few inexpensive changes has really helped me to love my front living room again. You'll have to let me know whether you think I should take down the fabric wall covering. I've been considering it ever since we bought this house.
Well, I hope you found this video helpful and were inspired to try some projects to help you love your house even more. Thank you so much for watching. That's all for today. See you next Tuesday.